There's a big problem with meta ad experts just like me. We tend to give blanket advice when it's not one size fits all. Let's get into it. All right, so one of the biggest issues is what I call the big budget bubble. And what that means is that for many experts, in a world where $5,000 a day, $10,000 a day is a test budget, that doesn't translate down. At that level, you get fast data and you get plenty of room for error. But the problem there is that when you're running a $50 a day budget and you're trying to follow somebody that's spending $5,000 a day, that does not work because their strategies, their plan is not going to work for what you're spending for. So the math, the timing, the patience required, it's all different. The way you set up your campaigns, the way you strategize with it, it's completely different. So and the reason I'm telling you all this is because you have to be extremely careful who you follow because their tactics, their strategies often don't translate beyond their niches that they're used to working in. And even within the budget level, it doesn't translate down. So be careful with that. So maybe you're wondering what people actually spend per day. I get asked that all the time, and I do budget videos. It feels like all the time. It feels like I do them all the time, or at least I talk about it all the time, but maybe not. So I thought I would put this down. So I got some data together based on my own client list. It's hard to get data just out there in the world about what's being spent, at least real data. Most of the time, what you see out there is, I hate to say this, it's just bogus anyway. So for my clients that are spending, not spending, but are making over $1 million a year, then they're spending at least $350 a day on ads, at least. Some of them spend a lot more than that, but none of them spend less than that. So just something for you to go by. If it's somewhere between, say, and I'm not going to go through all these in complete detail, but if you're making between 500,000 and $1 million, then you're probably going to spend about $250 a day, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so part of the reason is once you get to $350 a day, you usually have everything dialed in where you don't need quite as much in ad spend to go from the hump of $500,000 a year to $1 million. That's just really how it works. Then people who are making between 250 and say 500,000, they're probably going to be spending between 150 and 250 a day, somewhere in that neighborhood. Now below that, it's anything below 250,000, they're probably spending under $150 a day. A lot of people, especially if you're making around 100,000 or so, then you're probably going to be spending around $50 a day on average. So those are the budgets that people work within. And the reason I'm giving you all that information is because how you spend there is completely different. If you're listening to an e-com guy or whoever that is spending $5,000 a day, that's way off than what we're talking about for a coaching niche person who's making $1 million a year and spending $350 a day. The kind of thoughts that you're going to have, the strategy is just completely different. So I wanted to give you those base numbers for you to think about. All right, here's another issue with meta ad experts like me. Is a lot of times we'll talk about things along the lines of $5 a day ads. And there's nothing wrong with $5 a day ads. It's a great way to learn how to do ads without spending a bunch of money, right? You could spend $5 a day running your own ads and kind of learn how it works and figure out what you need to change here and there and those kinds of things. The biggest issue that I have is that most people that are touting that strategy don't talk about the time element. They don't tell you that it might take weeks or months to collect data to optimize. So when you're thinking about $5 a day, remember you're buying data, but you're buying it very slowly. And so as a result, you're not going to get through it nearly as fast. Most people, what tends to happen is they get frustrated with $5 a day because they don't see any momentum. And so they turn them off because the algorithm never finishes learning anything. If you're going to do a $5 a day ad, let's just say you're running a lead magnet, that might cost you $5 or $10 a lead. So you might get one lead every other day. When I talk to clients and they mention to me things about $5 a day ads, I will tell them that stuff. I'm like, okay, but have you played that scenario out? How many leads do you think you're actually going to get? How long do you think that's going to take? How many leads do you need to actually turn into a phone call or turn into an actual client? And so once you play those numbers out, then your expectation level comes down. So it's a much easier process. But the problem, like I said, was a lot of meta ad experts go, yeah, you can do ads for $5 a day. Yeah, you can, but be realistic with what you're going to get. I get frustrated with this from people when I say they talk about testing as if it's this ubiquitous thing that everybody should be doing all the time. And what I mean is, I don't want to say that there's anything wrong with testing, and you absolutely should be doing that. But when people say just test more because it sounds smart, small budgets don't factor into that the same way. You're not gonna be able to test things in the same way. You have to be a lot more methodical with what you're doing. And when you do test, say you split test, then you split your budget and it stretches your timeline, it stretches the amount of time it's going to take for you to get enough data to figure stuff out. So be careful when we're talking about testing. It's usually better in most cases for you to test completely new ads, not try to split test a headline. So for us, for people who are health and fitness coaches and are running meta ads, try to get more clients, we need to see things like 20% increase, 30%, 50%, not the Walmart increase of 0.25%, where that makes a big difference in their business and makes no difference in ours. Realistic testing means create a completely different pain point, image, or whatever creative you're going to use, and test it completely differently and let it run 5 to 7 days at minimum if you have a smaller budget. Oh, and just remember that testing really helps refine what's working, not fix what's broken. And most of the time, if you have a control, something that's working, when you test against it, you're going to get a poorer result. So remember that, okay? I don't want you thinking that you're going to get this fantastic result when you're testing. Usually you don't. All right, this thing about what meta ad experts talk about is scaling. Scale it. Let's scale it. Like what does that mean anyway, scaling? Most people are trying to get some stinking consistency. And if that's you, don't worry about scaling. You're not there yet. You don't need to be watching videos of meta ad experts or taking advice from people who are talking about scaling when you've still got to get your consistency down. So you want to make sure that you're focused in on the right thing. There's a difference between scaling, consistency, and then just starting, just getting going, getting the initial data. Because if you don't have any data, then you're looking at somebody else's data. You're asking your neighbor what their data is and hoping that's going to translate to what you're doing. So be really careful when big name experts talk about scaling, because they usually join a brand after they've already gotten traction. Like they didn't get them to that point. They just joined after they had already gotten to that point. And they're helping them to either maintain, or which it can be difficult. Let me just tell you that maintenance is not, there really is no maintenance in ads. There's either forwards or backwards. There's very little middle ground there. But they're usually trying to help them get to the next level because they know how to take the ad spends higher. Because ad spend is a funny thing. The more you spend, the more it costs. Okay, you get a diminishing return as you spend more in ads. So that's what it was. So when you're starting from zero, your strategy's got to be slower and a lot simpler. A few things to think about, especially if you're in a smaller budget and you're currently spending less than $350 a day now, probably spending $100 a day or less than that thing. So the first thing is nail one clear offer that sells organically, meaning whatever offer you have, it better be selling organically, because if you're expecting ads to save you, they will not. Ads and organic growth are symbiotic. They work together, not apart. So get your organic down first. Next, run small budget ads to learn, not to profit. Remember what I was talking about, $5 a day? That's okay in the right context. So run those just to learn, either learn how to do ads, period, or just to gather data. But realize you're probably not going to profit from them, and that's okay. Everybody's got to learn them. Track patterns before changing anything. So you need enough data to come through. In other words, if your ads only showed 100 times, that's not enough data, right? You might need them to show 1,000 times. So you want to make sure that you get those patterns in there and learn what's going on first. Don't take a $5,000 a day strategy and try to put it into your $1,000 a month budget. That's not going to work. So how do you know if they're spending $5,000 a day? If you're listening to somebody, just look at the numbers. If they're showing you inside their system, look at what they've spent, listen to what they're saying, And if it's showing you some massive budget, then you know that's not going to translate. It's not going to work the same way. Patience and clarity when you have a smaller budget. Speed is not going to help you here. So you need some patience and clarity when you have a really small budget to get the data in and figure out what's working. Don't try to do too many things too fast. Nail down what's working and improve on it. All right, just to wrap up, meta ads work. They absolutely work, even with this new update, whatever it is. There's always something new. You just have to play the game that fits your budget. Don't fall for the hype. That's what people tend to do. They're looking at these big ad budget people and they're following them for advice. And some of it's good. Some of the general advice is good, but the more specifics, usually the nuanced stuff is not good. Make sure if you're in the coaching business, all my clients are, you're not following an e-com person for your ad advice, because those are not going to translate over. Most of the tools inside the Meta Ads Manager are made for e-commerce, not for smaller budgets for coaches. So just think about that when you're inputting your ads. If you don't have an ad strategy or you never input ads, in below, you're going to see I have a link where you can opt in for a free guide. I'm actually going to start selling it, but right now it's free. And it's called 10X with ads. So this is only going to be helpful if you're already doing stuff organically. Now, you can look at it anyway. It's free, but just go below, click opt in, and I'll send it right over to you. But it's really simple, and it's just a Google Doc. And the reason I did it as a Google Doc is because I'm updating it as we go. So you can go back to it and see it updated. And I got video walkthroughs. I'll update those as we need to. So you'll see. It's pretty awesome. Okay, that's it. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed, do it. I would appreciate that. I'll catch y'all next time.